Story 1. Sylvia Smith is amazing and made sure we participated in everything possible. If you look her up on Google, as well as her project of heart history, you will understand why. She is one of the most amazing teachers I have ever had and will always stand out to me. Story 2. The summer school English teacher in high school had us read Lord of the Flies and provided an excellent analysis. He used examples of the main character, explaining how he believed that by following the rules, he could get what he wanted. Then, he related this to us, saying we are here because we think that following the rules will help us achieve our goals. He continued by questioning why we follow the rules of a society that has let us down. He was a really good teacher. I wish I had him for an entire semester. Story 3. Coach Houston at W.E. Boswell High School wore many hats, one of which was the driver's education instructor. When I got my license, he gave me his home phone number and promised a no-questions-asked ride home if I ever needed it. He truly cared about his students' well-being and was a solid human being. Rest in peace, Mr. Houston. You made a difference. Story 4. Mr. Olson, junior high history teacher, was loved by everyone. He passed away when I was about 25 years old, and there was standing room only at his funeral. Story 5. My 11th grade economics teacher taught me the importance of hustling and allowed me to secretly sell candy bars at lunchtime. Because of him, I am able to save more money for my future, and I have invested most of my savings early on. Life is literally more comfortable because of his impact. Salute to the side hustle community as well. Story 6. One of my high school elective teachers was there for my brother throughout high school and afterward. She even came to my brother's celebration of life. Story 7. Mr. Scott, the English teacher, took the whole class to the theater at night to see Death of a Salesman. He gave us a list of must-read books for our lifetime. He openly admitted to the drugs he took as a youth, their effects, and how he overcame them. He coughed regularly because he was a smoker and an alcoholic. He kept a half bottle of vodka in his desk drawer. He was erudite, witty, had an encyclopedic knowledge of music, and was very active in left-wing socialist politics. He was married to the school history teacher, who was prim and proper with a large bob hairstyle of natural auburn hair that was never out of place. He filled us with life. We left school thinking we were going to take over the world. God, how I missed the 1980s. Story 8. I was a quiet kid who cheated in math during elementary school. I was yelled at for it in 2nd and 3rd grade. I just couldn't understand, and I was so scared of being seen as stupid that I was too anxious to ask for help. By the time I reached 5th grade, I had completely slipped through the cracks with my math. I was doing well enough in everything else, so nobody really noticed. My 5th grade teacher noticed, and during a typing class we would leave to take, she pulled me aside and retaught me multiplication. She taught me in a way that actually worked for me, creating different stories to remember the times tables. I still think of them sometimes to this day. She noticed and helped me quietly without making a big fuss. And that's exactly what I needed. Story 9. My 3rd grade teacher told my mom to stop worrying and just leave me be. I would find my own way in time. It was the first and only time I felt someone had my back. I was, and still am, an introvert. I preferred being alone at recess and never wanted to participate in anything. There was nothing wrong with me. I just liked reading alone more than mixing with people who didn't like me. Story 10. My 12th grade advanced placement history teacher, Miss Lawrence, was attractive but never engaged in any inappropriate relationships with her students. Story 11. In elementary school, or the equivalent in my country, we had lessons in drama and theater. The teacher was the first adult who genuinely listened to what I had to say. I was used to being dismissed or not taken seriously, but this teacher showed real interest in my words. When I expressed a dream of writing my own play at the age of 7 or 8, she arranged for us to meet several times after class. She encouraged me to write the manuscript, challenged my ideas to help me elaborate on them, and truly made me believe in myself. I never finished the manuscript, but I will never forget how she made me feel seen, taken seriously, and inspired to believe in my dreams. Story 12. My 3rd grade teacher was the first person to ever give me straight A's. I had a difficult childhood, and I think she knew it, but she believed in me. Story 13. Mr. Peabody was a social studies teacher, a kind man who cared deeply for his students. I went on a field trip to his house during high school. You could talk to him about anything like a good parent. He called me once after I graduated high school, and we talked for a while. Story 14. One of the male physical education teachers was absolutely handsome. All the girls admired him. He later became a colleague when I also became a physical education teacher at the same school I had attended as a student, but I realized he was a thoroughly unpleasant man. Story 15. Mr. Feller tossed my desk across the room. Mr. Nurnberger was a great history teacher with just a touch of madness. Dr. Ichuan, a college professor from Africa, was the best civics professor hands down. Runner-up, the teacher who told me I was too stupid to travel. Thanks for shattering my confidence. Story 16. Our principal, who was reading Dostoevsky to us, became quiet when he ranted about the supremacy of the blonde, blue-eyed people. She asked the class who we thought the blue-eyed, blonde person was. No one knew what to say, and she proudly proclaimed it was her. Story 17. Diane Davis. Mostly because we fought like cats and dogs when she was my teacher in 3rd grade, and then as I grew up I learned how incredible a woman she was. She helped find places to sleep and food to eat for the passengers of all the grounded planes in Gander during September 11, 2001, the year I was in her class, coincidentally. She has a character named after her in the musical Come From Away. She takes in immigrants and refugees and remains friends with them long after she has helped them get their own homes. She is smart as a whip and has a sharp tongue and does not take any nonsense from anyone. We are still good friends long after I have graduated and she has retired. She continues humanitarian efforts to this day while fighting cancer. If there was ever a woman to look up to, it is Madame Davis. Story 18. I had a substitute teacher once. She started class by aggressively telling everyone that her name was Mrs. Nacion. Not Mrs. N, not Mrs. Teacher, Mrs. Nacion. She then proceeded to play a video and gave us all study guides to go along with it, which we were to complete in absolute silence. During the video, a cricket started chirping somewhere in the classroom, and I don't know if maybe she had never heard a cricket sound in her life, but she suddenly screamed, "What is that noise?" To which a student replied, "It's a cricket." She asked, "Where is it coming from?" I wish I had a more uplifting teacher story, but she was just so unhinged I don't think I'll ever forget her. Story 19. Cynthia Rudd and Jurel were my 3rd grade teachers. They put a lot of effort into separating the curriculum by ability for each subject. I had come from a different school the year before and was ahead in math, so they had me and another student working independently on different tasks. Even beyond that, the lessons were tailored to individual groups, which I really appreciated. Cynthia also brought me books from the 6th grade curriculum because I had already read all the books on her shelf. She was incredible at making class engaging and had the best projects of any class I have ever attended. Story 20. 11th grade history and 12th grade World War II were taught by the same teacher. He always had the biggest smile on his face and genuinely took the time to get to know his students a little. Whether it was about their personal lives, sports, hobbies, or other interests. Before class started, he would stand outside his classroom and high-five anyone, and he knew everyone's name. I found history boring, but he taught it in a way that kept my interest. World War II was an elective, but I and many of my friends took it purely because we all loved that teacher. I do not ever remember hearing anyone say they did not like him. When we graduated, he had by far the most hugs and handshakes from our class. Story 21. Mr. Lamort, my junior high English teacher, taught me the phrase diarrhea of the mouth. He knew I was struggling after losing my mom. Even though I couldn't really express much about it, he was always there to pull me out of class and let me cry. Things have come full circle, as I am now a high school English teacher whose students love, trust, and confide in me. Story 22. In 5th grade, my English teacher deliberately targeted me. Whenever a book went missing, I was always the first to be accused. When I was being bullied, I would get in trouble for making a scene. I was not the only person who hated her because she was cruel to everyone, but especially to me. Story 23. Mr. P, the super competent hard-ass. Mr. R, the expert problem solver. Mr. S, the convicted sex offender. Mr. B, who allowed me to work independently. Mr. I, another convicted sex offender. Professor S, known for unusual eye conditions. Story 24. My law enforcement teacher in high school was a retired police officer involved in stealing school funds. His 2 children faced significant issues because of it at school. Story 25. There were 2. A mathematics teacher taught mathematics in a way that made sense to me, logically and correctly. Another teacher afterward managed to unteach me. He was terrible. My science and chemistry teacher was good too. Although I had a bit of a crush on him, I did not realize it until much later in life. These are the 2 I still think about from time to time, 35 years after leaving school. Story 26. Over 30 years ago, a primary school teacher for year 5 sat us all in a circle and handed out peppermints. We were all excited to get our treat, but it ended up being condoms. An unannounced sex education lesson. Story 27. My English literature teacher, Mr. Shield, used to sit on the edge of my desk, and I used to feel all fluttery. He always smelled nice. He was a bit of a flirt, though, to be honest. Story 28. Howard Lassen taught me English and public speaking. I had him as my English teacher as a sophomore and was teaching his first year out of college. He was the same age as my oldest sister. He knew how to make everyone want to do their best, not just in his classes but in general. He had charisma. He was a genuinely kind person and would help anyone who was struggling. He and his family were in a car accident in 1995, and unfortunately, he did not survive. Story 29. My 8th grade English teacher told us we would be held back if we failed our final exam. In our school district, you legally could not be held back until 9th grade. She nearly made me cry because I thought all my friends would be going off to high school and I would be stuck in middle school. Story 30. Mrs. Carter was the other 2nd grade teacher. Not my teacher, but she lied about me and purposely embarrassed me in front of my whole class. It left a huge mark on me. That was when I realized that adults and teachers can lie. Story 31. My 8th grade homeroom teacher was the coolest teacher I ever had. He was extremely intelligent but not arrogant. He was a hunter and a fisherman, and he chewed tobacco during class. It was the early 1980s, so that kind of thing still happened in county schools here in Appalachia. Story 32. Ms. M. She was a redhead, a hippie, and very good to her students. Her brutal honesty is the only reason a few of them got off drugs and had actual decent lives. She put all her effort into caring for and helping people. Because life is unfair, she died during the pandemic. I found out right before I went to interview for work. She saved lives. She was paid so little she never bought anything nice for herself. Make sure people like her are honored. Story 33. My 8th grade math teacher said in front of the entire class that he wanted me to die in a school shooting. This made it difficult for me to trust adults for a very long time, even when I was heading into college. Story 34. California 4th or 5th grade Madrona Elementary School was expanding, so we were in trailers with no air conditioning during a heat wave. Actually, schools did not have air conditioning back in the 1960s. Our science teacher was also the school coach, Coach Carl Strong. He was aptly named as he was Superman handsome, a great teacher who kept us alert and interested. Good grades always came from Coach's classes. Good teachers are rare. He was great. During the heat wave, it was horrid in all the buildings, but those trailers were ovens. Coach would wear a big black coat and teach on. None of us kids could whine during his classes those days. I was searching a few names one night last month and came across his obituary. I left a remembrance for that great man. Another teacher was Miss Bateman. First name may have been Brenda. Pretty young, light red hair. 3rd grade English. We all adored her. Another teacher who knew how to reach kids and keep us interested. Back then, teachers, thank God, kept their private lives private as well as their affiliations. I found out years later that her brother was professional baseball player Dick Bateman. A class friend asked Miss Bateman if she could borrow a glass of water. Miss Bateman gently corrected her English, not borrow the water. The next day, my friend came to class with a glass of water from home and gave it to her. Miss Bateman cracked up. Story 35. College economics tutor. For some reason, he disliked me intensely, but he was a great teacher. Because of him, I switched my major to economics. Story 36. My fifth grade teacher. I was not a fan of her at the time, but looking back, she was really doing everything she could to help me grow as a person and overcome my shyness. She took the time to get to know her students and truly understood us and our individualities. She also made a movie with videos and pictures she took of all of us throughout the year and gave each of us a copy on the last day of school. It was really special and I still have it. She was an exceptional teacher. Story 37. Padre Oliveira, science teacher and Jesuit priest. All knowledge is obtainable, and there is a method to obtaining knowledge. He passed away halfway through the second year I had him as a teacher, but his influence is still very much with me today, 41 years later. Story 38. Mrs. Caminade purposely helped me complete my high school education even though my grades did not qualify me. Now I am studying for a Juris Doctor degree. Story 39. I can't remember his name. It's escaping me. It might have been Dr. Fucci. No clue if I'm spelling that right. He was a literature professor I took for a required general education course. Like many students of the 2010s, I went on Rate My Professor and found whoever had the easiest class. Day 1. It was not the woman I thought I had picked. Instead, it was this old curmudgeonly man, a self-professed Luddite who I think was the head of the department. Very intimidating. This class was amazing. He threw out 90% of the curriculum and said to us, "We're going to read about evil." Yes. Medea, Dracula, Richard III, Interview with the Vampire, Paradise Lost, The Interesting Hell Parts, and much more. I was very into it. I remember doing a PowerPoint he was impressed with about heavy metal imagery in literature, primarily featuring Iron Maiden. Loved it. Most of my general education classes were excellent. Story 40. My fourth and fifth grade teacher, Ms. Vanita, was an English-speaking teacher. She loved me like her own child, although she was unmarried. She always supported me in English conversation competitions and gave me many opportunities to speak in the school assembly. She taught me for 2 to 3 years but eventually left the school without any explanation. I also left the school in 7th grade. Whenever someone praises me in debates or poetry recitations, I picture her face. All my confidence to speak comes from her. I miss her terribly and truly hope and pray that I can find her and meet her someday. I plan to search for her when I achieve something significant in my life. Story 41. 11th grade advanced mathematics. I went in after hating mathematics for as long as I can remember and decided to try the advanced stream just to see if it would be any better for me. I now have a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics. Story 42. Herb Staggy, Avon Center Middle School in Round Lake Beach, Illinois. Fantastic English teacher, excellent musician, an amazing human being. Story 43. Mr. Gunnar was kind and had an infectious way of making everything fun. Above all, he made you feel valued and loved. Story 44. Mr. F was a music appreciation teacher who was kind to everyone. He would let me sleep in his class and gently wake me when he had particular music he wanted everyone's attention on. I always appreciated him. I love music deeply now and have a wide range of tastes. It is the medium through which I feel the most emotion. I believe he is a big part of that, and I think about him whenever his music comes up in my playlists. Story 45. Ed Egger Automotive Shop class taught us how to use tools that our fathers should have used. Because of him, I have the confidence to tackle jobs on cars that others now pay for. He is responsible for probably thousands of former students becoming mechanically inclined. Story 46. My advanced placement physics teacher in high school in the United States was smart, funny, and great at explaining complex subjects in an engaging manner. He used many props to show how things worked. He was also an expert marksman when throwing a dusty chalkboard eraser at someone nodding off in class. Story 47. Ed Egger Automotive Shop class. He taught us how to use tools that our fathers should have used. Because of him, I have the confidence to tackle jobs on cars that others now pay for. He is responsible for probably thousands of former students becoming mechanically inclined. Story 48. Mrs. Com made French the most boring subject on earth. Mr. Bennett spends most lessons chatting about random topics while the class makes fun of him. He is fine with it, though. Story 49. My pre-calculus math teacher, when I had signed up for honors calculus, recommended I sign up for advanced placement calculus instead. Now I am in year 5 of a physics doctor of philosophy program partially because people like her had faith in me. Story 50. Barbara Maroney Horn instructor. Amazing inspiration and great teacher. I might have learned a lot more if I were not such a hard-headed, snot-nosed kid. Wherever she is, I am sure she is inspiring others to be their best. Story 51. Emma McCarthy, Jim DaCosta, Ken Mills, Edward Coffey. Those 4 teachers had a fundamentally profound impact on me in high school through their teaching methods. They unlocked areas of my developing brain. I became more curious, engaged, and learned how to apply my knowledge to my present and future experiences. Each was a unique teacher. Their teaching styles spoke to me in ways I cannot fully express but encouraged me to engage in deep critical thinking, apply empathy, and helped me develop into a better human being during those critical years. Story 52. Walt Timp was my 6th and 8th grade band teacher. He helped me explore my love of music, gave me the tools to succeed, and encouraged me to try out for All-State when I had no confidence. He brought me back into music after I moved to a different city for 7th grade and had a bad experience. I quit band a month in and swore off music forever. I don't think he will ever know how much he meant to me as a teacher and a friend. When I was a junior in high school, he retired. As a tribute, all of his former students from the schools in the district skipped class, gathered at the middle school parking lot, and surprised his retirement assembly with his favorite song, The Baby Elephant Walk. Story 53. Mr. Patterson. I would go to his class before school started, listen to Rammstein, and light entire books of matches on fire because I was a mild pyromaniac. He was a great teacher, even though I barely passed. I'm not smart with chemistry. Story 54. Mr. Kupar, or Kudog as we used to call him, was a teacher I always loved. I always loved history, but his classes made me love it even more. Actually, I had a lot of great teachers and some bad ones, but Kudog and some of my undergraduate lecturers stand out. Story 55. And Hartman taught me in elementary school, middle school, and high school. She taught me about compassion and depth. With her, I learned how to illustrate and design for others beyond myself. Art can be an expression of ego, but is also inclusive and interpretive, able to evoke emotions, whether negative or positive. Unfortunately, she witnessed the impact of a negative reaction. I had a bully who thought it was acceptable to call me an explicit term and punched me in the eye. It was the first time I physically stood up for myself and won. I was given 3 days of expulsion, and he received detention. Story 56. Mr. Riley got lucky and had him for 7th and 8th grade English. His family were missionaries in Africa, and he spoke 8 different languages from there, including Swahili, the one with the clicks. He was taught his manners and English by a person from Britain, so he had a very posh air, walking with his left hand behind his back. However, he wasn't stuck up or acting superior. He grew up very poor, so he always carried coins in his pocket. Because he never had coins before, it made him feel richer to have them. One day, we had a class on proper eating, where to place a plate, the knife and forks, as well as proper manners and how to eat. Super cool teacher. Story 57. Mrs. Larson in 6th grade. I was gluing beans on a piece of paper for an art project. She said, "Your hands are so steady. You should be a surgeon." Story 58. High school calculus teacher. He was great at explaining math and making it apply to the real world. But what I remember the most was the sheer amount of homework he assigned. 2 pages of problems daily. The homework wasn't graded and was only collected 4 times a semester, randomly. If you didn't have it that day, he dropped your grade by a full letter, no exceptions. No one dared skip the homework. By the time the advanced placement calculus test arrived, we had done every problem from every past test. We probably did thousands of calculus problems that year, and I never missed one. The entire class scored 5 out of 5 on the AP test. Literally every person aced it. Now that is teaching. Story 59. Mr. Timmons was an 8th grade science teacher. He rode a motorcycle every day, no matter the weather. He was a retired military member and a great human being. The second was the nun who taught geometry in 10th grade. Sadly, I do not remember her name, but she made the subject enjoyable, and I learned a lot there. Story 60. Mrs. Thurman bullied me in front of the entire 4th grade class. It was so embarrassing for me, and I will never forget it. Story 61. Holloway claimed to be part of the group that tried to nominate a pig in Chicago. I am not sure, as I do not know how old he was in 1993. Story 62. My 10th grade religion teacher at a Catholic high school on Long Island. I had a bit of a crush on him then. I was an angsty teenager, as most are, and it felt like he truly saw me, which is very important for a teenager. That man saved my life. Wherever you are, Mr. Tomasic, I made it. I am still here. Story 63. My 1st grade teacher. I originally did not want him as my teacher because he was a man, but he ended up being one of my favorites. Ironically, my 3 favorite teachers were men. I remember one time my mom was having a procedure out of town and could not pick me up at school. She asked her friend to pick me up, but the friend forgot. I was left at the school for hours until my mom finally arrived. When my mom arrived at the school, she was frantic. Meanwhile, I was having fun because my 1st grade teacher stayed with me the entire time, and we played board games. Story 64. We had a science teacher in junior high who had an embarrassing incident in front of the class. We were just sitting there, and she got up on a table in front of the class. She was talking about something and getting pretty into it, almost dancing around on the table. To everyone's dismay, she had apparently started her menstrual cycle, and it was very visible. She was wearing gray pants that made it obvious. She went through a few class periods and did not realize it. Finally, a teacher's aide pointed it out to her, and she left for the day. I still feel sorry for her to this day. Story 65. I had a 7th grade science teacher who really helped me get out of my shell and made me love learning and understanding how things worked. I connected with him on Facebook 25 years later by sending a friend request, which he accepted. It was just a small Facebook page he had with his wife. He had a severe medical emergency and had to be hospitalized the week of Christmas a few years ago. His wife posted on their Facebook page that he was in very bad shape, and the doctors were doubtful he would make it. So on Christmas Day, after we finished opening presents, I went to the hospital and asked the nurse if I could see him. I went in, sat down, introduced myself, and told him how important his influence was on how I perceived myself and my own education. He gave me a thirst for learning that I have always kept with me. He was very weak, and we chatted for a while before I told him I would let him rest. A few hours later, his wife arrived at the hospital after going home to get cleaned up and posted on Facebook that she had walked into a Christmas miracle. He was up, walking around, joking with the nurses, and told her all about how a student came to visit him, though he couldn't remember who it was. She asked in the post if the student could come forward and let her know because when she left him that morning, he was ready to give up and let go that day. Fast forward 5 years, and I see all the time that the two of them are traveling around the world and having a wonderful time. All it took was someone taking the chance to say thank you. I have missed too many opportunities to thank the people who helped me in my life, and I am not missing any more. Story 66. One teacher I'll never forget is my 11th grade chemistry teacher. I was born in the United States but grew up in Saudi Arabia, where I studied under the British system and took advanced levels, which are subject-based qualifications similar to college-level courses. I once told him I wanted to become a doctor, and he basically told me to curb my expectations. He wasn't completely wrong. I ended up getting a C in his class, which he predicted 2 months into the school year. He was spot on, but his approach was harsh and not very encouraging. Still, that moment stuck with me. I am now a resident psychiatrist, and I like to think I proved him wrong in the long run. Story 67. Mr. Scruggs was a sophomore English teacher who told entertaining stories and jokes. His reading list was excellent as well. I read Beowulf in his class and enjoyed it. Story 68, Mr. W. 7th and 8th grade history teacher in the 1940s, was perfect for teaching kids of that age. Fun, personable, and definitely intimidating if you messed with him. He could teach history to anyone. In the early 1980s, the Blackhawks became exciting, and a group of us decided to play pickup hockey in the gym parking lot one Saturday. He got involved and suggested an after-school meeting in his classroom to draft teams. He wanted to play too. So we held our own hockey draft with him logging the picks on the blackboard. We had a great time. On Saturday, he showed up with a trunk full of sticks, pads, gloves, and other gear. Anyone who needed equipment was welcome to use it. He said we could call him Frank that day. We had 4 teams and played a round-robin tournament. I don't remember the results, just that Frank was a great person who still had a lot of childlike spirit left inside. Story 69. My middle school English teacher, Ms. Bakey, visited me in the hospital and brought me coloring supplies. It meant the world to me. Story 70, Mrs. Wright. I hated school and never tried, but she was very strict with me and made me put in the effort. She pushed me harder than any teacher I ever had. I resented her for it at the time, but I have respected her for the last 35 years for her dedication to a student like me. She was a great woman. I wish all my other teachers had tried half as hard as she did. Maybe I would actually have an education now. I wish I could tell her how much she means to me today. Story 71. Not a teacher but a librarian, Miss Carmen. When I was in 3rd grade, I did not get along with the other kids, and I spent every recess and lunch break in the library reading with her. When I was supposed to move away, she gave me a copy of my favorite book with an inscription saying it was okay that other kids found me strange. I was just unique, and someday I would find other people who appreciated me for it. Story 72. Mr. Bachu was a social studies teacher in grade 8. He was miserable most of the time. Looking back now, I honestly believe he was an alcoholic. Being one myself and now 6 years sober, I can see similarities in my own behavior during my time in addiction and his then. One day, some kids were laughing and joking around in the back of the classroom while he was at the front trying to go through the lesson. He lost it. He took the meter stick he was holding, broke it over someone's desk, and yelled, "Will you miserable little shits shut the hell up?" His face was red and full of rage. The principal must have been walking by as this happened because he came in. We were all sitting there in shock. He sat Mr. Bachu down at his desk, said something quietly into his ear, then quietly walked him out. I never saw him again. Story 73. I remember them all and each has contributed to me in some way. Did I pick my Doctor of Philosophy advisor? My 7th and 8th grade Latin teacher? My 12th grade English teacher, who was also my acting and forensics advisor and whom everybody disliked, probably because of his voice? No, it was probably Tim Allen at the University of Wisconsin. The course Plants and Man taught me so much, from how to brew beer to how to prepare lettuce. Story 74. Mrs. Hawthorne, my middle school art teacher, was the only teacher I ever had who did not patronize me or treat me like a child. I was in special education, and she treated me like a regular kid, listened to me, and encouraged my creativity. One of my core memories is walking past the art room to go to the bathroom and overhearing her talking to another class about a picture I had done, using it as an example. Story 75. High school teacher Carlos was cool and also our tutor. He gave me the grade I was missing in some subjects. Story 76. During my junior year of high school, I had a terrible United States history teacher. He gave us so much busy work in that class, and basically none of the material we learned was on the tests. He also did not have a grading system at all. His system was completely different from every other class I had ever taken. It was very complicated, and even my parents were unable to understand it. They did not like him at all. We also had to have note cards every day. We rarely used them. He was very particular about the type we needed. It was not the standard 3x5 size. It was different and hard to find. We could have just used the standard note cards and been fine. From what I remember, his system was basically that there were no grades during the year, but the final grade would be determined at the end. There were some grades for a few things, but he never updated the grade book, so I had to see the entire year. At the end of the year, he asked what grade I thought I should get. I said C because that was what was in the grade book, which he never updated. This class was very stressful. Story 77. My sophomore and junior year English teacher made me who I am. She always checked in on her students, as she lovingly called us. She had a strong sense for the unspoken and could see our struggles from a mile away. She knew I was struggling with my mental health throughout my sophomore year. I ended up in a mental hospital in the winter of that year, and she was the only one who checked in with my school nurse, who I was also extremely close with. When my mom called to ask if she could tell my teacher, my immediate response was yes. She cared deeply not only about me but about every student in her class. My connection with her felt like that of a mother and daughter. She didn't have children of her own except for dogs, so I think her students really did feel like her kids. I went to college thinking I was going to be a doctor and failed all my classes. I knew immediately what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be like. In the spring, I will be graduating with a bachelor's degree in English and education, and I hope to be everything she was for me for my own students. She retired 2 years after I graduated, but I had the opportunity to email her and tell her about my career path change and thank her for always caring about me. She saved me and inspires me every day. Story 78. Mr. Woods, known as Woodsy, in the 1970s, ahead of his time, facilitated learning and discovery and made learning exciting and interesting. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.